Hello and welcome to the FilmSoc radio show. I'm here with Devon.
And we're introducing ourselves with our favourite superhero film. So I'm Devon, and I think it's just The Dark Knight. It's pretty classic, but it's a really good film.
I'm Jerry. I think mine is probably a tie between Dark Knight and Spider-Verse, Into Spider-Verse.
Oh, yeah.
Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse. Yeah.
I'm Peter. My favourite one is probably a tie between The Dark Knight and Batman Returns.
And I'm Patrick, your host, and mine has got to be Thor Ragnarok.
So shall I do box office now?
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, UK box office, which is, as always, last weekend's. At number 5, we had The Good Liar with Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen. Has anyone seen that one yet?
Yeah, I've seen that one.
How was it?
It's quite fun. It's just seeing Ian McKellen and Helen Mirren go toe to toe with each other. It's like a lies games. Who's lying? Who's true? And Ian McKellen's so delicious. He's like this vicious espionage. Not espionage. He's like, you don't know what his intention is. He's like a big liar, and it's so delicious. Like, it's kind of surprising. Like, such a prestigious actor like him would play such a devious character.
Okay.
I think if you like that kind of thing, there's a lot of twists and turns, and it's quite fun. I think it's a big recommendation for me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I do want to see it. It's just kind of slipped me by when it came out.
Yeah.
That I think it opened at number 4. Number 5, sorry. Then at number 4 we had The Addams Family. It slipped a bit after Halloween, but it's still going pretty strong. Number 3, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, which has overtaken The Addams Family again, kind of riding the usual Disney wave, although it's still a bit of a disappointment in terms of box office. Number 2 is opening The Aeronauts with Felicity Jones and what's his...
Eddie Redmayne.
Yes, yeah. Anyone seen that one yet?
I've seen that one.
How was it?
I think it's a very traditional biopic kind of thing-ish. If you like that kind of thing, there's some good visuals with it. But for the most part, it's just kind of like what Felicity Jones and Eddie Redmayne have been doing. Like, it's literally exactly what you expect to. I don't want to be too harsh on it because it's just like, some people will go to see it and that will be exactly what they want. They have good chemistry. That's the thing. So it's kind of conservative, kind of.
It's a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, crowd pleaser. Yeah. But it's a good airplane watch. That's what I'm saying.
Well, depending on how you feel about flying, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Eddie Redmayne does seem to just play the same character over and over again. At least I was thinking that, and I was like, he should do something really interesting, he should play like a proper villain in a sci-fi film. And then I remembered he had, and maybe that wasn't the best choice. Then of course that means.
What film is that you're?
Jupiter Ascending, the Without Chief film.
It's so great.
The classic one where I think he won the Oscar for The Danish Girl.
Yes.
And then that immediately came out, and everyone was like, "Ooh, Eddie, can we have it back?"
The Danish Girl was a phenomenal film.
I still haven't seen that one.
Oh, yeah. Really good. Definitely need to see it.
Brilliant. But it was a disappointing opening, and also we've had terrible drops for Terminator and Doctor Sleep, so a lot of box office flops this summer. Except a little film which has made number 1 again. Joker is still number 1 in the UK box office.
It's just not stopping.
6th week in a row.
Well, it's
absolutely
just crossed $1 billion worldwide, and
The first R-rated film to do so, and the lowest budget $1 billion film.
Yeah.
Very impressive. I had a look. There's been $44 billion films in the history of cinema. 23 of them were Disney, over half. Shows you kind of how prevalent their box office reign is. And also, they've had 5 so far this year, with a possible 2 more. Well, pretty probable from Frozen 2 and Rise of the Skywalker, which means they will have made 7 in total in 2019. Universal and Warner Brothers have made 7 total ever. So
it's still to my shame that I've still not seen Joker. So
you really need to. It's still in time size. It's worth it. Of course, it going 6 weeks in a row. It's the first film in the last 10 years to do that in the UK, the last being Avatar. And another quick box office note, Zombieland Double Tap has officially passed Zombieland in terms of worldwide gross, so hopefully in another 10 years they'll all return for another one. Woody Harrelson a little bit greyer and a little bit less wanting to be there. We'll see this weekend. We've got Last Christmas, Le Mans 66, also known as Ford vs Ferrari, and The Report opening. I have a feeling Joker's going to lose its crown. I feel at least Le Mans 66.
Yeah, I think the Ford vs Ferrari will probably bump it off the top there.
And if not, Last Christmas, it's Christmassy.
No. It's
there's
Christmassy.
There's enough people who are wanting to be in the festive season.
Yeah. And also, I mean, it's just George Michael, so people will go just for that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's UK box office. Yeah.
Okay, and we're gonna start with our first song. Welcome back. That was Ballroom Blitz by Sweet, and we're going to pass you over to Devon for film news now.
Okay, well, first up, just a story which caught my eye, Black Adam, which is one of the new DC superhero films, got a release date of the 22nd of December 2021. It's quite amusing. It's starring The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and it's finally getting a release date 14 years after he was attached to that role. He was originally down for a Black Adam film in the early 2000s from Peter Segal, but then that got cancelled in 2009, and he was reconfirmed in for the DCEU, but just kind of in a very long pipeline that's finally reached fruition, so it's going to happen. But the interesting thing for me is it's almost not news about Black Adam itself, but they've put the release date 5 days after Avatar 2, which I think is quite interesting that Warner would put their kind of big The Rock superhero film directly against Avatar 2. I mean, it's got to be one of the most unpredictable films for box office and success. It could do anywhere between just kind of a normal middling sci-fi film, and it could even surpass the first, maybe. We have no idea. So the fact that Warner have the confidence to put that kind of shows it shows their view in that maybe it won't do amazingly, maybe there is still hope to fight against it.
There could be a massive reliance there on Johnson's star power, though.
Yeah.
That could be the main thing they're thinking of, is that he is big enough that people will go and see it over Avatar.
And he is also quite good counter-programming, because of course Jumanji came out against The Last Jedi and did really quite well. It almost hit $1 billion. What were you going to say, sorry, Peter?
No, that's just what I was going to mention. I think they'll rely on that it doesn't have to come at the top of the box office. It'll, like Dwayne Johnson gives legs to whatever films he's in, it will make its money back.
Yeah.
I think it's weird. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, except the thing that Avatar 2, I mean, the first Avatar was completely reliant on its legs. It was actually beaten by Alvin and the Chipmunks in its second weekend, and then regained box office and reigned over the next 8 weeks. So it's definitely a leggy film. So I'd expect like a Star Wars to go up against Avatar, because that's just it makes all its money in its first weekend for all of the fans going to see it and it being kind of an event, and then it will trail off quickly. Whereas both Avatar and Jumanji were very kind of, we'll let the big ones have their weekends, the Alvin and the Chipmunks, but we'll just simmer.
I think the difference there is that Avatar 2 makes itself this event now because of the first one. So it potentially is looking at being more of just a big hit weekend.
See, I don't think it will. I mean, there's no real fan base around Avatar. No. There's no, fear of spoilers. Nobody's going to be like, I got to see Avatar in the first weekend, otherwise I'll see a spoiler for it on Reddit or something. And with the history of the franchise. I just did quotation marks with radio. The franchise of the one film being leggy. There's no real expectation, I feel, for a huge weekend.
There is James Cameron fans though. that is the significant factor there.
I mean, after Terminator Dark Fate, there's still a few of us remaining.
But I think the interesting thing about Avatar is that it mostly made its money back when it's re-released. And it's all about word of mouth. Like it didn't, like you said, it didn't do a lot of big business when it first came out. It's not a big opening day movie, but it's after people see like, oh, you need to see this Avatar. The world is unbelievable. So people went back and see it. So probably it's not gonna do like people probably want to see it, but it's not like a Marvel film. You want to see it as soon as possible, kind of things to avoid spoiler. It's more like an experience, I guess. I think. Disney will probably want to sell that with their new Avatar land as well, sort of like marketing, not just for the film, but also for their new Disneyland with Avatar in, Now you've seen the film, you can go experience it yourself.
Yeah. Well, Avatar was an experience when it came out because the special effects are so huge and they just like fixed 3D. Like everyone that went to see it in 3D. From what I know from the sequel, I think they want to focus on like a water planet and stuff, but Aquaman's already done that and it's done it well, so they use water physics. And so I feel like Avatar 2 has already lost its unique selling point for being in production for so long.
Well, if it was anyone else, I'd be like, well, obviously Avatar was a fluke. It was an event movie that just was a product of its time and there's no way it can be replicated. But of course, Avatar was Titanic replicated because he's already done it twice already.
But I do think it's part of it is actually the sort of theme within Avatar was so big in actually how big it became. Was because the idea of basically essentially being something else. It encapsulated the whole idea of living your life through other things, and that is what made it so big, I think. And I think that still exists now.
I think Marty Scorsese has been saying comic book films are like amusement park, but I think Avatar is actually the amusement park. The experience of it, you actually go into someone's body and then you experience the world. It's literally like shot like an amusement park as well. Like you see all those like different animals, creature lives. Like when you watch Avatar, you feel like you're going into the world. That's literally James Cameron's intent. There's a story behind it, but it's very wishy-washy, I'd say. Very.
Yeah. The story isn't the main factor of the film.
Yeah, it is also interesting that Avatar was so kind of thematically about environmentalism and kind of climate change and stuff. And I wonder if that will affect, like if it had come out now when that's much more of a pressing issue and much more known and talked about, if that would have made any difference and if it will going forward. Yeah. In other stories, Disney Plus launched. They did their thing. 3.2 million app downloads on launch day was their estimate, which they gave us. There were technical difficulties, but there were on. It's a tech service. It's always going to happen. But there was an interesting little story that came out of it. It turns out the version of Star Wars which George Lucas gave Disney had been edited somewhat, and so the McClunky conspiracy started. So for those who don't know this, there's a famous scene in the original Star Wars film where Han Solo and a guy called Greedo, it's not a spoiler, don't worry Alex, a guy called Greedo talking, and Han shoots Greedo, at least he did. In a more recent edition, it was edited so Greedo shot first and Han very weirdly CGI'd his head to the side in order to dodge Greedo's shot. This one changes it even further in that now Greedo shouts something McClunky at Han and then shoots him, and then Han shoots back. So yeah,
well, it's interesting. It's the only thing on Disney Plus that's been picked up. The Simpsons movie was also put on it.
Oh.
And in the Simpsons movie, there is a part where you see Bart with ears on, and he says, "I am the face of an evil corporation," which is interesting, I think.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. They've also put things on some of their shows which warn users that older films have outdated cultural depictions, which I think that's the first time Disney I can think of are really acknowledging that they may have not been the best in the past.
Yeah.
Usually they just kind of try and hide it and pretend it never happened, like Song of the South. But I think it was interesting that obviously some of them they are trying to hide, like Song of the South, that isn't on Disney Plus. But some of them they're being a little more acknowledging about their maybe not so politically correct past, let's say.
I think it's the only way in which you can preserve the art, but also make sure it's known that it wasn't perfect. And
yeah, I know Warner Brothers has been doing this for years. Like in their old cartoons, they've had slates and stuff which have very carefully said that these are based on outdated stereotypes. We're going to show them because we think that these people's great animations need to be shown. They have a right to be shown, and we shouldn't pretend they never existed. But keep in mind, it's not great. Yeah. Another news story which I'm so glad we live on this planet. So Nicolas Cage is going to star as Nicolas Cage in a film about Nicolas Cage. It's a film about him trying to land a role in a new Quentin Tarantino film. Action which he has tried in the past. He's wanted to be in a Quentin Tarantino film for a long time. And I guess he gave up on trying to do it in real life, so he's doing it in a film instead.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it could be one of the best casting calls he's ever done.
I loved reading up the article because it said like Nicolas Cage is being finalised for the role of Nicolas Cage, as if there was competition, as if he was there in a room with 3 other people.
There is Face Off.
Yeah.
Other people do play Nicolas Cage.
Can you say the title of the name, which is fabulous? It's The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Perfect.
That's phenomenal.
Perfect.
I love it.
Yeah, I did dig into the film to kind of see what it was actually about. It's a guy called Tom Gormican directing. The only other film he's done is a film called That Awkward Moment with 22% on Rotten Tomatoes. So maybe not the best track record. I did look into this film. I'd never heard of it at all. It stars Zac Efron, Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan, Imogen Poots, Mackenzie Davis, and himself in the film, playing, it seems like him. Yeah.
I mean, those are some big names.
Those are some incredibly big names. I'm not sure, I can't remember when it came out. Maybe it was like just before every single one of them was famous. But that's huge. It should be it should be remembered, and maybe there's a reason why it wasn't. So good luck, Nick. I hope it pans out for you.
It just feels like a classic Nicolas Cage film.
Oh, it so is.
In that he's just said yes randomly, and they're gonna make it, and there's no sort of confirmation that it will be good.
Yeah, I feel like this film is also interesting because it feels like he's most self-aware. Because when you look at Nicolas Cage interview and you ask about the memification of Nicolas Cage on the internet, he's kind of oblivious to it. He's like, yeah, I'm not sure. Like, because every role he does it with absolute serious and sincerity.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's actually aware of the comical effects he has on people. But in this film, he seems to actually going for that. He's like, I think in the plot description it says that he's reminiscing about his good old days, about his Space Off days, something like that. I was like, wow, that's quite the big step up for Cage, I guess. Yeah. Quite meta, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely. I feel like, as cheesy as it is to say it's the perfect role for him, it sort of is, because he is almost a character in himself. It's like Keanu Reeves playing Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves isn't a great character, isn't a great actor, but you make him just play himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really good at just shooting things.
Yeah, but the fact that John Wick was basically a character based off Keanu being kind of wooden in the way he acts.
Yeah,
It's just
brilliant.
perfect. Yeah. The final bits of news: 3 trailers came out in the last week. There was the new Scooby-Doo trailer, Scoob, which is a little bit horrific.
Childhood killing, I think, might be.
It's just Fred. He looks so weird.
They all look so strange. I mean, Scooby-Doo looks on point in it, but all the rest of them are just a bit strange.
Yeah. Then there was also the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, which got a trailer. Has anyone seen that trailer?
I've not seen
I
that.
have. It's like, you know the way the second one used CGI
Yeah.
and act as if it was the whole movie, but it's only like a little bit of it. This is the whole movie.
Oh,
you
no.
know, it's quite strange. It's like an uncanny valley sort of feeling.
I thought it looks like really quite good. I don't know if it's something they did with the frame rate or just like the style of it, but it looks almost stop motion in the way they like present the characters. Like, you know, it's not claymation, but it evokes that sort of, at least for me it did, it evokes that feel.
I think they did some stop motion just for like a Christmas special,
Oh,
just like a
okay.
regular one, Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
What was the third one then?
The third one was quite controversially the new Sonic the Hedgehog trailer.
Oh, I've not seen that either.
Do you know the story about it?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. Well, let me indulge you. So, I think it's Paramount. Paramount's the studio. They released a trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog about 6 or 7 months ago.
And I've seen that one, and it was very strange.
Yeah. And basically, the internet cyberbullied them for about 2 months. And then they were like, okay, we'll change it. They pushed the film about 7 months through their time frame. So it should be out now, but it wasn't because they decided to redo the entire CGI for the entire film. And I think probably edit the film a lot too. It seems very different in terms of the way it was portraying the plot and Sonic's role in the plot. And they've basically redone the film. But it's just so funny because people usually do this we'll fix it and we'll in times where a film's come out and it's flopped and they're like, well, we'll fix it for the sequel because we want your money. This is literally just a studio who's been bullied into fixing it.
Well, it's whether they've been bullied or they're actually trying.
You're giving Hollywood a lot of credit here.
I know, but it's, bear with me. They may actually be trying, and I think they're probably the huge worry they've got about it is, with the Sonic film, they're competing against the Detective Pikachu one. They're competing against now Scooby-Doo and other things, and Sonic, as the idea of a film, it doesn't work as well as the others.
It's the weird thing that the film's very obviously aimed for kids, but Sonic isn't really a kid's property.
Sonic hasn't been a kid's property for about
it's
10 years, maybe.
been dying out for a while. A lot of
Yeah.
the games have been very poorly received. It's losing a lot of fans.
I think the last one that had any sort of good reception was probably the Where Sonic thing that they did on Wii in 2012 or something.
Is that the one where he kissed a girl?
I've no idea.
There's one of the game that he kissed a real life woman.
Oh, that was Sonic 06. That was the start of the fall.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's released with so many glitches, but it's an infamous game.
Yeah. It really does feel like Sonic has become it's kind of meme worthy, and now they're making a film for kids, and a bunch of adults have told them to fix it, and then they've fixed it, but it's still aimed for kids.
It's strange. Maybe they're trying to use it to reboot Sonic, which is a very interesting sort of idea.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll get a CGI James Marsden in the next Sonic game. You'll play as him just roly-polying around.
Though in fairness, it's Jim Carrey as Eggman, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, he's not a draw for kids anymore.
No.
You get The Rock or Tom Holland in to play Eggman. and you've
There'll
got
be
the
someone
kids.
they recognise, but
Yeah.
Jim Carrey hasn't been in films for quite a while now.
Yeah, maybe they are just kind of aiming it as parents to be like, take your kids
Parents,
to it.
yeah, parents take your kids and then have the kids like it. Yeah.
Maybe we have become the parent generation. Our childhood things
Far
are
too
being used
soon.
to.
Far too soon.
That's scary. Yeah, so that's the rest of the movie news.
Okay, well, in homage to not the new Scooby-Doo, but the old Scooby-Doo, here is What's New, Scooby-Doo. Hello and welcome back. So what we've decided to do in honour of Martin Scorsese's birthday today is talk all about Marvel. And the main thing that we're looking at is the question of, was Avengers Endgame the end of Marvel? Has that killed off Marvel and the MCU?
I don't think so at all. I think it's only just begun.
I think it didn't, but I think the future direction they take, because they've been saying that they're gonna make 4 Marvel films a year, and every Disney Plus series is gonna tie into the movies. I think that inaccessibility may drive some people off, but I don't think Endgame itself will, drive people off.
Yeah, no, it's not going to end, but it does have to change. I think we are getting to this point where it might be a bit more, evolve, or just people are going to stop going, honestly.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is I do think, maybe not kill it off in that sense, but I do think people will stop going. I haven't seen the new Spider-Man, was it?
Far From Home.
Far From Home, I've not seen that. I still haven't seen Captain Marvel either. And I've not felt any draw to after Endgame. And especially, I'm sure we can go with spoilers for Endgame now. It's quite a while on. Is that a no? Okay, we won't go with spoilers for Endgame.
Yeah, well, the thing that I think, because in 2021, Marvel have a film called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings coming out. And it's the thing that China is sort of the emerging market for Hollywood. It's where so many films should have bombed, but China has saved them. I think Terminator Genesis was actually one of those films that did terribly worldwide, apart from China, which completely saved that film from being a flop. Transformers has been kind of more and more a Chinese marketplace. And even stuff like Aquaman, it's the highest grossing DC film, and it's also the film with the biggest kind of proportion of Chinese viewership. I think Marvel they've shown that they're very good at targeting particular kind of parts of the audience, and they will absolutely craft Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings to be a success in China. And I don't think any of the other studios are pushing that hard on the Chinese marketplace. So I think, if anything, Marvel is going to become more of... It's going to have that marketplace, and it's going to be able to ride that for the next 10 years at least.
Is the worry with that not, though, they will leave behind the current marketplace that it aims for?
Well, it's still got... Black Panther did incredibly in America. I think it was... I can't remember the exact breakdown, but it almost made as much in America as Infinity War did, I think. It, absolutely amazing box office run there.
I think, well, obviously there are, with Black Panther, this was still in the build-up phase, and I do think it's a lot like if you put pressure on your leg and then you get pins and needles if you take your arm off. It's kind of a lull at the moment, and the worry is if they switch their focus now, then they will lose where they were at.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I think they've changed their strategy in previous years. It used to be that it was kind of heroes like Tony Stark and Thor and Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, where and Star-Lord of course too, they're usually white males, and they're usually they're not particularly nice people, but they kind of go through character arcs and they become better. They've changed that recently, and it's much more heroes like Captain America, Captain Marvel and Black Panther, who are like these very prestigious role models, and those films are the ones which are making more money than the old ones ever did. Captain Marvel and Black Panther are both billion-dollar films.
But then again, there is the huge argument that they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the setup from those other characters, and the other characters were the reason that people kept going back, because those films were viewed as so good.
Yeah, like there's an argument to be made that with Black Panther and with Captain Marvel, they're sort of riding the high on the Avengers film as well. You know, Black Panther obviously is a cultural phenomenon when it came out that year, but I think a lot of films that precede Avengers films are kind of riding the high on the upcoming big release. You know,
except that Ant-Man and the Wasp didn't do very well at all. I mean, it didn't do well in Marvel terms, but it didn't do very well compared to Captain Marvel.
Obviously,
sorry. I have quite a stilted release date, because I remember last year there was like the World Cup or something, or a football thing, and Incredibles and Jurassic World and Ant-Man and the Wasp got different release dates in Europe than America. And over here it was actually quite substantial, so I think spoiler culture, as well as Ant-Man just not being a very huge IP, literally.
I think it definitely did suffer from that, and it suffered as well from Infinity War, which had been before it, and it was kind of seen as a kind of more of a money grab in the middle, rather than an explanation to anything. So people didn't want to see that in case also it spoiled something, which was always a potential.
Yeah, but like I think like one of the things they tried to do with Ant-Man and the Wasp is like, especially with some of the end credits, is like, oh, even Ant-Man and the Wasp is essential watched for Endgame, and that didn't work. Like, which sort of points out there are flaws in Marvel's strategy. You know, you cannot, when you make every film as important as Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, I think it actually dilutes that excitement for it, because you cannot. Not every film should be important. Not every film should be, then you should watch it, or else you don't understand the next one. It makes it quite inaccessible. That's what I'm thinking, that in the future years, if Marvel released 4 films a year, would people want to see all 4 of them, or would they just pick 1 or 2 and then just like, I don't want to see the rest of it. It's too much money-wise, and also how much like my brain can contain. There are other studios competing with Marvel as well. You know, Warner Brothers, I think, comparatively, actually has been on a steady rise since the really, really tragic events of Justice League. They've been trying interesting stuff. Like, I didn't love Aquaman, but at least that's something. And there's Joker, and there's Shazam. Each of them feels very distinct in its voice. Maybe audience will be like, oh, there's a Marvel film like coming out, but there's also an interesting film Warner Bros. Is doing. I like the previous film they did, so maybe I'll try something fresh.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with Warner Brothers and DC, is that with Justice League they tried to go way too quickly to get what Marvel had essentially, whereas now they're being much slower. They're taking their time. They're creating the characters, which is obviously what Marvel had to do. Just they started it about 10 years prior.
Well, here's an interesting on that note. I was talking about Black Adam earlier, coming out in 2021. There's actually 7 superhero films slated for 2021. There's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. There's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. There's The Batman. There's Spider-Man 3. There's The Suicide Squad, which is James Gunn's kind of reboot of Suicide Squad. James Gunn is the guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy. Then there's also Thor: Love and Thunder and Black Adam, all over the course of a year. Do you think that's too much? Who do you think is going to suffer?
I think the sufferance there probably will be in Suicide Squad, just because of how the last one was. But then again, they are still doing Harley Quinn and
Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey.
Yeah,
that's it.
February.
And that's quite soon. So that might help that one out potentially.
Yeah, I believe Margot Robbie is going to be in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
They've recast a lot. It's a very strange mix.
It's a peculiar way of doing it.
They recast Will Smith with Idris Elba, and then about 4 weeks later they decided, oh no, Idris Elba's going to be playing a different character, but he's still in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to get Idris Elba into a similar sort of role. I think the rumour is at the minute that he's going to be playing Vigilante, which is sort of like a poor man's Deadshot.
Yeah, it's very similar.
It was quite... I think the thing they should have been doing was put him in as Bronze Tiger.
Yeah.
I think a martial artist and all, but we'll see.
It's interesting to see Idris Elba taking a bigger role, because obviously he was in the Marvel Universe, and I know there were reports that he'd said he was quite disappointed how small his role was in that. So it's interesting to see him being given a bigger sort of place.
He was in the Thor movies?
Yes.
Yes.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
That's
that's
what I
it,
remember
yeah.
it.
It was Heimdall the Gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, got unceremoniously showed him way off in Infinity War. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah.
Yeah.
Infinity War was about 4 years ago, though, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
we're okay.
So the Disney Plus shows, do we think they're going to be a success?
I mean, it's been the tale for quite a while that DC's shows have performed better than Marvel's, and I think if they do them well, Marvel's will outstrip them, no questions asked. But if they make mistakes with them, which starting a new TV show quite easily be done, then all of them will suffer.
It's quite interesting because, of course, there was the Netflix Marvel shows that came out, and I feel like when they started coming out, everyone really loved them. But the narrative seems to have changed. I haven't seen any of them, so I don't really know.
I didn't watch all of them, but I know they died off very quickly with people's opinions. So people loved
Daredevil?
Daredevil.
Yeah.
People loved Daredevil, and then people liked Jessica Jones, and then
Cage.
Luke Cage, I think, was where people started.
Luke Cage was
drop
some
off.
people liked, and then the
Iron Fist was
Iron
it?
Fist is
Yeah,
the overwhelming.
total
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I feel like even people looking back on Daredevil and Jessica Jones, I feel like maybe it's just the novelty wore off. Of
I think
seeing
so.
Grimdark superheroes.
To be fair, they become quite repetitive and formulaic.
Yes.
Like every season of a story is just like, oh, we introduce a new villain and this is like a tragic story, and so kind of samey, you know.
And they're quite long seasons, weren't they? They were like 20 episodes or something.
Yeah.
Ridiculous
But
like
it's
that.
interesting because the other, talking back on DC TV shows, they had the same sort of formula to it, but they also had overarching issues. And I think what they struggled to do with the Marvel ones was having an overarching kind of story behind all of it, because they had to hide it because of Infinity War and Endgame and everything like that. So they really suffered from the fact that the movies were so big.
Also, there are so many DCs who like TV
There's-
series.
Yeah.
I was just scrolling through Facebook the other day. I got an advert for a prequel series about Alfred, like
Yeah,
the
it's
Bruce
crazy.
Wayne's butler.
Pennyworth.
When he was like becoming a butler.
Which is obviously insane, but it is absolutely crazy, because I know because I used to watch a few of them, and then they always did the crossover episodes where they do a big event like each year.
Yeah.
And they had, when I first watched them, I think they had 3 shows that combined, and I think it's like a 7-part thing now with 7 different series
It's,
crossing over.
This next one is called Crisis on Infinite Earths. As far as comics go, this is like the original crossover event. And it's Arrow, The Flash, Batwoman, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow are all doing it. And Arrow's ending, but they're replacing Arrow with a Birds of Prey TV show
Right.
that's spinning out of it.
Oh,
And I think
wow.
they're looking to do more stuff as well.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely insane that a CW TV show, sort of like they don't have a best budget out there, would do like such a big crossover thing because they're gonna do Superman, I think.
Oh yeah, that was it. They're doing Superman and Lois Clark. Well, sorry, yeah, it's going to be the next one. Oh, and there's Black Lightning as well, which has been separate, but I think he's going to be in the crossover. Like he's going to be part of one of the parallel Earths.
Right.
So everything's connected again.
So they're bringing a Superman TV show. You're saying there because are they using the same person who plays Atom? I believe.
No, well, the guy that plays Atom is playing a Superman based on the Kingdom Come comic book. Supergirl cast her Superman a few seasons ago. He's played by Tyler Hoechlin. I can't say his name, but he was in Teen Wolf as Derek, I want to say his name was. He's actually very good. I'm looking forward to the series. Supergirl stepped up big time in its 4th season as well.
Okay.
Is Gotham in this?
It's ended its 5th season. Although they're connecting Smallville and the 2003 Birds of Prey TV show, like every old TV show. I think they're even trying to get Linda Carter in to it somehow as Wonder Woman, and Burt Ward as Robin, I think, was rumoured to be part of it.
Yeah, because I know for quite a while they weren't allowed to have Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and a few others.
Yeah.
So has that changed now?
I think it is changing. I think because of course we have shows like Titans as well, and they have their own Bruce Wayne and stuff. I think Warner Bros. Has just reached this point where it's like, we'll just do what we can, to get viewers in. And they have several continuities working together. So Titans and Doom Patrol are part of the same universe, but they're not part of the CW ones.
Right.
And those are separate from Swamp Thing, which was cancelled anyway.
Yeah. So. See, it was the most interesting sort of decision I'd seen that was made was when they were casting for Justice League, and they didn't reach an agreement with CW to use some of their actors and characters, which to me just seemed crazy because you tried to have a series where you introduced a Flash who was not the face people had seen for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the big struggles they had as well, because they also had a ready-made character with background there as well.
Though the DC doing their film continuity has been tough enough, let alone introducing continuity with the TV shows too.
I think they're going the X-Men route from now on, where it's sort of like there's continuity, but there's also not continuity.
We'll just hit the reset button.
But do you guys think like Marvel will sort of run? I mean, it's not the same issue because like DC sort of like there's so many Batmans. There's ones in films. There's Robin Pattinson ones. There are 3 separate Batmans now in in this TV show. There's the Gotham one. There's the Crisis on Infinite War one. There's I'm not sure. There's even like like you said, the Alfred ones. I'm not sure. Like, would audience be confused that would that happen to Marvel as well? Because that sort of hurt them a little bit. I think dilutes the.
I think the interesting. It's always back to Joker, but that is a film that should have confused everyone. Should have been like, but this isn't Jared Leto. What's going on? Why is this set in the 80s? Why does he look completely different? But he obviously didn't. People love it. So
I think part of the thing that helped that though was they've obviously had Batman series before. They've had the Joker before with Heath Ledger. So you've already had a second, and you've had several Jokers. So it's a character, and you recognise the character more so than the actor playing it. I think.
I feel like that is maybe the MCU struggle, is that the characters are so attached to the actors. It isn't like James Bond, which Warner Bros. Kind of operates under, where you get a new Joker, you get a new Batman, you might get a new Superman. There will probably never be another Iron Man.
Nor another Wolverine.
They'll try. They'll try.
They will try, and it'll make me really upset, but they'll try.
Yeah. So with the upcoming Marvel films, we've got Black Widow, The Eternals, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and Thor: Love and Thunder. That's apparently the Phase 4, which is interesting that there isn't an Avengers slated for Phase 4.
I think that's for the best. They need to build it up again because a lot of characters are moving on to a TV show. And I think it's time. I think they're splitting their paths a wee bit. The TV shows will have continuity. I think WandaVision and Loki are tying into the Doctor Strange. But I think the movies will be primarily setting up new characters.
For the new set, yeah. I completely agree. And I think they will, some of the characters will maintain. It could end up being we have very similar films to, obviously, Captain America Civil War, in which you have an Avengers film, just not titled it.
Yeah, I think that's what Doctor Strange will be.
It's got Elizabeth Olsen in, doesn't it? As Scarlet Witch, is it? Is that
Yeah.
right? Scarlet Witch, yeah. And of course, Thor: Love and Thunder.
Which will obviously have Thor.
And Natalie Portman.
Yes.
Yes.
As Thor.
As Thor.
Yeah, and I think it was possibly... There was talk of either Guardians being in 4 or 4 being in Guardians.
I believe Thor is going to be in Guardians.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Indeed.
Yeah. Are people going to see these films? Are people excited?
I feel like I'll go and see them anyway, but I think whenever Black Widow comes out, we'll look back at Ant-Man and the Wasp for reference, because this is a film that takes place like just after Civil War. You know, it's Scarlett Johansson isn't, well, let's be honest, she's been very controversial lately with her casting decisions, and I don't think that's going to help her. If this film had come out like after Civil War, I think this could have been hugely successful, but I think they maybe should have gone with a different lead. I think Scarlet Witch would have been a better choice.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
There will be something to people to look forward to, because we know, no spoilers, but we know Black Widow's fate.
It is a prequel, so
we know what we know. We already know what's happened, and we also know what's happened in the time between. So it just feels like they're kind of rewriting history a bit for it, which makes it a struggle as a film. But yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our next song, which is The Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin. Hello and welcome back. So we're going to move on to our next section now, which is talking about films that make us want to travel. Or go to a specific place, or you've seen in a film and it's made you want to go and explore. So we'll start with Peter.
So a film that I love as a child and still love now is Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And that's just sort of the epitome of exploration, I think. It's, you know, just a globe-trotting adventure where there's something that just you wouldn't expect in a place anywhere, ranging from Egypt to Venice to Cuba, wherever. I don't know if they've been to Cuba, I doubt it. But yeah, I think that's always piqued my interest.
Just want to, as Peter said that, Patrick mouthed a lot of very sweary words.
Expletives.
And then is now doing some quick Googling on his phone. So you'll be able to figure out why.
Yeah, Indiana Jones, absolutely fantastic series, really. They're doing another one, aren't they?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah. How do people feel about that?
Yeah, I think he's too old. I love Harrison Ford, but I think it would just be really sad, to be honest.
Completely agree.
Stairs in look at Kingdom Crystal Skull. It's just like, oh, Harrison doesn't even want to be there. It's just like, oh, let's do this again, I guess.
I'm surprised he signed on, because he's been quite vocal about not liking Star Wars, or at least being done with being in them.
Yeah.
But he willingly signed on for a 5th Indiana Jones that's been pushed back quite a bit and hasn't dropped out, so it might be a strange passion project of his to get this done.
It's very interesting because he has said in the past nobody else can play Indiana Jones other than him, so it's perhaps trying to preserve some sort of legacy, which there already was from the 3. So it's just quite odd, I think.
It would be funny if they cast what do you call him, Alden Ehrenreich from
Ehrenreich?
from Solo.
Oh yes.
I think that would be hilarious if they cast him as Indiana Jones.
The funny thing about Indiana Jones is in the Kingdom of Crystal Skull film, at the end, Shia LaBeouf wants to pick up the hat, and Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones is like, nope. So like they did try to tease that a little bit, but I mean I'm glad that Shia LaBeouf didn't become Indiana Jones, because everybody would be like, ooh, that's just too much. But yeah, like, but to be fair, it's always been Harrison Ford's favorite between Han Solo and Indiana Jones. It had always been Harrison Ford's favorite role to play. Like, he actually had fun with it. You know, it's Star Wars, he's just been so miserable. Let's be honest. Like, even since the first film, since New Hope, you know, he doesn't want to do it in Empire. That's why.
Yeah,
they wrote
those spoilers.
Yeah,
It's actually quite interesting how he got cast as Han Solo, because originally he was just brought in by George Lucas to do cast readings. And so he read with Carrie Fisher and everything, and then I think they were just like, right, you're perfect for this, like nobody else could do it after reading the role of Solo for everyone else to audition.
Yeah.
I think that there was someone else like that they had their eyes on, and then after that they were like, well, there's no point.
They made the decision to just go with him. Yeah. What about you, Jerry? What film?
I think the first thing when people talk about travel, it's Secret Life of Walter Mitty, but with what's his name?
Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller.
Yes.
Yeah, it's such a traveling, like, he goes different places.
Yeah, I do love how his name disappeared from everyone's mind as soon as you said that.
I was going to say Ben Miller, but I know that's a very different actor.
Like, I remember his face, but I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
That's such a, like, inspiring film for traveling, you know,
Yeah.
to experience the present, you know, to go to different places. I really like, it's quite an inspiring thing. And also the Before trilogy. Yeah, like every film they go into a different city, you know, and they just make the city so, like, it's not so tourist. Like, a lot of films when they go to like a different place, like every film that takes place in London, they show like a wide shot of Big Ben or people walking through Big Ben, but that's so not tokenistic, but it's kind of like people don't even walk through Big Ben every day. But when it's Before trilogy, like the scenery, the city just blends in the background, and you sort of just experience it. You know, even in the first Before trilogy, that they walk on the street and they talk to people, and it just feels so organic. You know, like you just want to do that. You know, just wander on the street and then just see every detail in the city. You know, hopefully find someone you like to chat about. You know, just experience life there, sit in the cafe kind of thing. You know, just so chill. Like, I love the mood of it. Like, other than the main central love relationship, the city is also a character on itself. And, you know, when I watch Before trilogy, I want to visit Paris. I want to visit, you know, I think the third film is set in southern Italy, like sort of like a villa thing, and just like, ooh, I want to be there. Yeah, I want to travel there, just enjoy the sunshine and talk to someone I like, because that's such a I think it's everybody's dream to travel to somewhere and meet a girl they really like on a train, and they just it's a sort of like a fantasy in some way, I guess. Yeah, a travel fantasy.
So if you could go somewhere that Walter Mitty went, where would you pick?
Ooh, I like the part where he went to like the snowy mountains, and he met Sean Penn there, I think.
Yes.
And one of my favorite moments in that film is like when Sean Penn, he's like a National Geography photographer, and when he captured like a fox or something, that moment he decided not to take the picture. Instead of he just want to enjoy it, you know. And that's, I think, what I want if I go to like like in the wild. I just want to enjoy the present, you know, enjoy every living life, you know. And it's there's a little bit element of selfishness, because I want to keep that all to myself, you know. Like I'll share my experience with my friend, but at that moment it's just me. Like, I love connecting, and that film captured that so well. Like, it's quite great. Yeah.
Brilliant. So what about you, Devon? What would you say?
I've got to do a. Well, I'll mention In Bruges because it's wonderful, and I think everyone who watches In Bruges immediately wants to go to Bruges. But Lord of the Rings, I want to go to New Zealand at some point. It just seems such a magnificent place to be, and visiting the little Hobbiton Shire thing that they've got set up there. Yeah, no, I'd love to visit there. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, beautiful place, wonderful. I think I personally would pick, if Indiana Jones hadn't been taken, I would probably say Rome and Holiday. I mean, I've always wanted to go to Rome, but nothing like that film has like increased that. Seeing it, especially how it was more than how it is now, is probably what I'd go for. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Good.
I'll just give a quick shout out to FilmSoc alumni Sam Midwood, the old president, is listening to the show and wants a shout out. So, hey Sam.
Can I throw in the curveball?
Oh, okay, go for it.
Yeah, I think Jurassic Park. I know it's technically everything went horribly, but every time I see Jurassic Park, especially the first half where they flew into the island, and like you see it's like a theme park I actually wanted to go, because like Spielberg was so detailed, and there's even food, there's like a visitor center, there's like a whole thing. You feel real, even though you don't see the whole Jurassic Park. I want to visit Jurassic Park, even though I know there's a chance I may get eaten by dinosaurs. But there's this sense of wonder and like excitement, adventure, kind of like Indiana Jones. Like every Spielberg film has that Spielberg magic, and that film just captures my imagination so well. Like there's a reason they made four sequels of them.
Yes, well, I mean,
far.
yeah.
And then the second one will come out.
Yeah. It's because people love it. People love going back to Dinosaur Island despite knowing they may get killed.
I've got one to build on that. Then, I've always especially when I was a kid, the island that they go to in the Incredibles film, I wanted to live there. Like everything from the beaches and the tunnels to the caves to the water that Dash ran across to the little like monorail to actually going in the base and having like the wall of like lava which splits open to go to the PC.
I mean, I do genuinely believe that you could be a supervillain, so there you are.
Won't reply, I need to speak to my lawyers.
Yeah. I think, almost there are loads of films like it. I mean, think about James Bond films, any of them. They go to such incredible places. I know a couple of the recent ones, they went to Venice, they were in Istanbul, I believe, and so many places.
And Adam Sandler films are notorious for basically being set to wherever he wants to go on holiday, so he can basically take a bunch of friends on holiday for 4 months, and some days they might shoot a film.
It's commendable, really.
I mean, Netflix keep paying him to do it, so something's working.
Have you seen the recent one?
I don't think I've seen
Uncut Gems.
The murder mystery.
Oh,
it's a bit like a spoof of Murder on the Orient Express. It's Murder on a Fancy Yacht. I can't remember the name of it exactly.
I think it is just called Murder Mystery.
It may be, yeah.
Jennifer Aniston's in it.
Yes, it does, yeah, and far better than you'd expect it to be. I watched it. I really did enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good actor. At the heart of it, as much as we don't believe it, there's like you just mentioned, Uncut Gem.
I really want to see that.
Yeah.
Is it out yet?
I don't think so.
No.
I haven't seen it.
It's out early next year, I think.
Gotcha.
It may be on Netflix. I'm not sure there's gonna be a release in the UK.
Oh, is it a Netflix film?
No, but it will be distributed on Netflix. It's just so unfair. I want to see it on the big screen.
That Annihilation was that for me. Very off topic, sorry Patrick, but Annihilation. Netflix robbed me of seeing that on the big screen.
Oh, yes.
I the day after it came out, I organised for FilmSoc to do a screening of it because a lecture theatre was better than at home. But still, I wish I'd seen that in IMAX.
Oh yes, that's perfect. It's so frustrating. Like there's some films I really want to see, but they're on Netflix and they may not get a release window here in the UK. It's just like yeah.
I think there's 2 showings of Marriage Story at Tyneside for its entire run.
I think so. I think it's coming out next week.
Next Friday and Saturday.
Oh yes, it's good. Yeah.
I need to.
Yeah, and so we will now head to our next song. Barcelona by George Ezra. Sorry about that, technical difficulties. I hope everyone isn't too deaf. We're going to switch up. To be fair, it's very fitting that happened to recommendations for psychological thrillers now. So I think we'll start with Jerry. What would you recommend?
There's a lot of films I love. I want to recommend some underrated ones because there's a lot of films people know, like Seven, like David Fincher films. But I want to recommend some perhaps not that known, like Denis Villeneuve's Enemy.
Damn it, that was going to be my one. Yeah.
I'll leave it to you then to talk about it.
Oh, okay. Enemy. It's a very interesting film. It's the film that got me into kind of weird art house films because it's a very good gateway into that way. It finishes and you're like, oh, I think I need to watch that again because I didn't get it, but I really liked it. And that's exactly. And I watched it again and again, and the basic premise is Jake Gyllenhaal is he's a teacher, and he gets a DVD recommendation from a friend, and he watches it, and then something weird catches his eye in the film, and he rewinds and he pauses it. And he can see an extra in the film who looks exactly like him. And it's about him hunting down this person and finding out who they are and what their deal is. And it's just a gorgeous film.
That sounds brilliant.
Yeah.
Very,
Denis
very
Villeneuve,
strange.
of course, did Blade Runner 2049. He did Arrival. He did Sicario. He's, fantastic director.
Yeah, I think in the other films, there's a really good film. A few weeks back, we have our FilmSoc's screening for Prestige. And in that film, there's an actress called Rebecca Hall that plays, I think, it's Christian Bale's wife,
Yes.
I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she is in a spectacular psychological thriller called Christine. It's based in real life.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a real life story. It's very underrated. I want to talk about it because it's flew under a lot of people's Rebecca Hall gave it a really good performance. It's about a reporter who suffers mental illness and sort of just get driven to the edge, and it's very subtle. It's very slow burn. I think a lot of people are talking about Joker. I think that would probably be something even more subtler than the Joker, because it's a character study basically, and Rebecca Hall's character's relationship with a lot of people in her life, and how sort of passive aggressiveness and small things can sort of just push you over the edge, just little by little. There's no dramatic, thing like what happens in Joker, but I really love that film. And there's also Nightcrawler. Jake Gyllenhaal. We were talking about Jake Gyllenhaal. It's
Absolutely
brilliant.
Fantastic film.
Yes, that literally captured my imagination. It literally made me excited for any Jake Gyllenhaal films. I think ever since Nightcrawler, I think I'm sort of riding high on that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I want to see another film like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of films Joker these days is the most popular things, but I think there's also a lot of things quite similar to it, also different, and that's worth to watch. And Nightcrawler and Christine is probably things that surface in my mind.
Do you think Joker could be a good gateway into the psychological thriller for more mainstream audiences again?
Yeah, you can recommend to your friends if you like Joker, you probably should see this and that. Joker's not my favorite psychological thriller, but I think it could be a good way to suggest films to people. If you like this, you should go watch this.
With Nightcrawler, again, that film makes me want to visit LA. Maybe not live there. It makes me want to visit it. Have you seen the most recent film from that director?
Yes,
Velvet Buzzsaw.
Velvet Buzzsaw. Oh God, it's such a disappointment.
It's very interesting. It's almost ironic that Nightcrawler is a film about kind of very amateur, haphazard videoing, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And then Velvet Buzzsaw is his newest Netflix film, is about incredibly beautiful procedures art and it is one of the ugliest films I've seen this year. It was just so flat and colourless and awful.
To be fair, I love the character. I love Jake Gyllenhaal's character. He's such a like in that film he plays a snob art critic, and the way he talks, like when I saw the trailer, I was like, I want to see this. Not just because it's Nightcrawler's director, and the whole cast basically returns. I think. Not the whole cast. I think what's her name? She's also in Nightcrawler.
I know she's married to the director. I can't remember her name. Yes.
Renee Russo, who previously is in Avengers Endgame as Thor's mom.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And she's also in the film, but it's really interesting, and I think it's trying to say something about art world, but fails so spectacularly.
Yeah.
But Jake Gyllenhaal's character is just so delicious. He's like an art critic. Everything he says is just like, I want to see Jake do more of that.
I'm sorry, I'm stopping you guys, but Prisoners is another Denis Villeneuve film with Jake Gyllenhaal. And his performance, he's just got so many subtle, tiny things to his character, like the way he blinks or the way he like fiddles with things, and it's fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Go for it.
What about you, Peter? What would you recommend to people?
There are two ones that always come to mind. Well, not always, but a recent one I saw for the first time actually was Misery. I watched it leading up to Halloween, and it's phenomenal. If just for Kathy Bates' performance, because you hate her but you love her at the same time, and you feel sorry for her, and then you're like, why am I feeling sorry for her? She's an awful person. And it messes with you. You feel like you're stuck in, what's the writer's name?
Stephen King.
Stephen. Oh no, I mean the author and the main character.
Yeah, the protagonist. It's sort of like an allegory for
Stephen
King.
But anyway, the main character, you feel like that. You feel like you're trapped with Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes. I want to say.
Should we give a little bit like what happens?
Oh yeah, sorry. If you don't know it, it's about an author who writes a series of Victorian romance novels called Misery. And he's just finished his final one. It's about to be published, and he's finished a new book as well. And on his way home to New York to show it to his publisher, he gets trapped in a snowstorm and so it crashes into a tree. And he's saved by his biggest fan, Annie Wilkes, who traps him in his house essentially and pretends to take care of him.
I think it's an interesting film that sort of. I think it's especially relevant these days. That it talks about fan culture. You know, the relationship between the author and fans. What do you expect? Like especially with films like Last Jedi these days, or very divisive films. Yeah. I think it could serve as an interesting allegory for that. You know, it's literally about the relationship between the author and the readers. What do you want, and you know, how much responsibility do you have meeting the expectations of people with any films these days. Anyways, I think it's a really interesting, psychological thriller.
One of my other favorite ones is Memento.
Oh,
just like it changed my way of thinking about film structure. I don't want to give away too much because it's sort of like a spoiler. It's good to sort of go in not knowing what's going to happen, but it's about a man played by Guy Pearce, and he suffers from a sort of a form of amnesia where he can't form new memories, and he's trying to find the person that murdered his wife.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those films that is both a deconstruction of a genre while also being a perfect, almost like the top of that genre. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. It's Christopher Nolan, of course, who did Inception, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Interstellar, Dunkirk, all those kind of films. It was his first, not first feature film, but his first like proper studio film.
I think there's a film he did. I'm not sure if after Memento.
It was after Memento. The Insomnia is what you're thinking of. Yes.
I think it's a very underrated film as well.
Insomnia, nobody knows about this film. It's a film directed by Christopher Nolan, starring Al Pacino and Robin Williams, and nobody's seen it.
It's so great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
What would you recommend it as a film? What's it about?
It's about a detective who goes to a town to solve a murder, and the town is in eternal daylight, and he's trying to hunt down this killer. It's got these beautiful scenes because it's like a town. I think it's a remake of like a Swedish or Norwegian film, like one of those northern European countries, and it's set like in that kind of environment. So it just has these scenes with these huge rolling fog clouds covering this foresty areas as he's hunting people through, and it's very nice.
Very interesting. Well, I've been a bit greedy. I've taken 2 recommendations for myself, and they're 2 of my potentially favourite films in a very long time. Get Out and Split. They're my 2, and I think they are absolutely phenomenal films. Split was probably up there as one of the best I've ever seen, just purely down to McAvoy's acting in it, I think.
It is that role was the actor's dream. Hey, play every character.
just play about 12 characters and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely fantastic. I think then Get Out is just such a you spend the whole thing guessing what's going to happen, and you're still surprised. Even if you've guessed it right, you're still surprised.
I mean, the thing with Split too, James McAvoy is obviously like the star of the show. He's the one everyone talks about. But Anya Taylor-Joy, who is in films like The Witch and
New Mutants.
What's the
Thoroughbred?
Thoroughbreds?
Yes.
She's in that film, and her role in it is a lot more subtextual and a lot more understated, but she holds her own against James McAvoy and them one. She is incredible in it. Yeah.
Wow. I think we will move on to just talking a little bit about what films got going on this week for the Film Society. So we have, in about half an hour actually, a film production meeting for anyone that is interested, and we'll be talking about the preparations for our 2 short films that we're going to be making, which is a comedy sketch and another film called Goodbye Dear. Now, I believe you've got something to do with that, do you not, Devon?
I might have wrote it. I might have done a writing.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about it? No, nothing big, just...
It's just a small kind of, not really a horror, more a drama type thing, psychological drama film about a guy who's trying to get over the death of his mother while he's clearing out her living room. Just a nice simple.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And then on Monday, which is obviously tomorrow, we're going to be having a screening of Anchorman, and that's going to be at 6:30 in BSTC 1.46. I believe also later in the week, potentially Thursday, there's going to be a karaoke social.
Oh no.
Very exciting. Everyone should come along. There will be more details released on that in the near future. And then
Tuesday there's also Writer's Room, which is the final talk session. I'm going to be talking about getting into the industry, kind of advanced formatting, and also the rules of screenwriting.
And then in December, on the 15th, we have the FilmSoc Christmas Bash, which is going to be at Bar Loco, starting about 7 o'clock. We're going to have food, live music, drinks and everything. So tickets will be going up very shortly for that. I believe they're going to be £5 or £10. I will have to check for you. Right. And then with that, we will head to our final song, After the Lights Go Out, by the Walker Brothers.
Which is the credit song of Enemy. Yeah. It's fantastic.